As I predicted in my weekly picks, the Falcons beat the Packers at home. Now, when it comes to doing this analysis, just like my last video, I'm going to talk about the winner first, but I'm going to talk about the negatives or my negative thoughts, and then my positive thoughts on the Falcons. And then for the Green Bay Packers, since they lost, I'm going to talk about the positive things and then finish off the negative things because I want to finish off on the note on how the night went for them. So since the Packers lost, I talk about the negatives last for them. And with the Falcons, since they won, I talk about the positives last. Now, when it comes to the negatives and positives, it's my thoughts of my negatives and positives. So 2 weeks ago or over a week ago, I did mine on Chiefs versus Patriots, and one of my negatives was Alex Smith. I didn't say Alex Smith did bad that game or he was a negative for the Chiefs. I just had negative thoughts on him, saying that I really was not that impressed by it simply because the Patriots defense did do well and some of his deep passes were easy reads. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So with the Falcons first, I'm going to start off with the negatives. Now, when it comes to their special teams has always been a concern. I've never remember really Atlanta being a great special teams unit at all. I know they signed Andre Roberts. He was the second best return man statistically last year, behind Tyreek Hill. And I didn't really see much of Andre Roberts. I thought he did okay. I remember one time they had this one return, and like the returns right here and there, they're not super, super impressive, and that's one of their acquisitions. So that's definitely something I looked at. Also, when I look at the Falcons, I definitely think that when it comes to Matt Ryan, a guy who I've been critical on, made the video. Click in the link in the description if you're interested, but please keep watching these videos, guys, because my analysis is just unbelievable. And when it comes to this, the Falcons, Matt Ryan, I'll get to the Falcons defense later, I still don't really see much progression with him. It's really the Packers defense. It's in a dome. I can't really get too excited for him. I mean, he did what he should have done to the Packers defense, and he did well. That's what he did, but it's nothing. He didn't blow me away. Accuracy-wise, I know they said that he's been working on his footwork and all of that, and I see a little bit. I see some progression there, but really, it's not much. And usually when it comes to O-line, quarterbacks that have bad footwork are usually a product of a good O-line. So, for instance, Eli Manning, when he won his 2 Super Bowls, it's because he had a good O-line, but his footwork's bad. But with Matt Ryan, his footwork, that's one thing that's going on, but he still needs to work a little bit on his accuracy. I'm still not fully impressed by it, but he's making steps maybe in the right direction, hopefully, but just remember, it's the Packers defense. Now, when it also comes to this, the Falcons defense, they definitely look gas out there. Now, the Falcons, I had very high expectations for this defense. I think it's quite possible that this defense could be a top 5 defense one day, or maybe even this season. And I made another video on it, but guys, you want to see my analysis. And when it comes to this, they just get gas. For some reason, they have a problem with stamina. Now, when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons offense, maybe how this kind of relates to this is because the Falcons aren't really a team when it comes to time of possession. They're not really a team when it's about the drive. It's really about the big scores. Devontae Freeman, Curry Coleman, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, they're guys that they're there for the big play. They're not really there to drive up the football field. And when you look at this, I think some way that they could help their defense is do a little bit of those drive games. Maybe having an underneath target. I think it's quite possible. I think a Roddy White. I mean, they don't really have Roddy White out there. I mean, they have Julio Jones, who's better than Roddy White. However, they don't have that underneath guy that can consistently do that week in and week out, who can just beat underneath, almost as if like a Golden Tate. I feel like a Golden Tate would be a guy that they want, be their underneath guy, just to kind of keep the drives moving and whatnot, because for some reason this Falcons defense constantly gets gas. There's no absolute stamina. I don't know if they just don't use the treadmill at all, but there's not very good stamina right here. And they brought up a point about this when the Packers started to rally a little bit back. They didn't really shut them down. They kind of let them rally a little bit back. So I like to see this, and these are some things when it comes to the Falcons where, I mean, ever since the Super Bowl, people are going to be eyeballing whether a team can rally against them and whatnot. and it's definitely going to be big. It's definitely going to be a hunch to go over. Now, when it comes to the positives, I definitely thought the running game looked very good. And obviously, maybe Mike Daniels was out, but the Packers, I would say if there's any strength with their defense is their front seven. They did a good job execution. They came in. The running backs came in when they needed them to. If they needed a third down shirt converted, the running backs were there. Big plays, all of that. I was impressed by that. I think another point is Julio Jones. Julio Jones looked great. They really used him at the beginning of the game, then really used him as a distraction later on, which I thought was fantastic. Good strategy right there because the Packers are just going to be eyeballing Julio Jones like from the start of the game because the Packers don't really have a real number one cornerback. I mean, their cornerbacks suck. So when you have Julio Jones out there, you really get them start getting hot even when they're focusing on him. Good job by Julio Jones. It shows that even when the odds are against you, you can still come up big. And that's why Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the National Football League. Then also, I think another thing to look at is one of their free agent signs was Dante Poe. Now, Dante Poe is on a one-year deal. Now, Chris Collinsworth, who I actually think is probably the best commentator in the game, just because of his ability to analysis. He's got a good voice for it, and he's really not that biased. He will compliment a team, but he will crap on a team. And that's why I kind of like him. He had this fair kind of way of doing this. And so when I look at it, he brought up a point with Dante Poe, how this guy has close to 1,000 snaps a year, which is really hard for a defensive tackle, which is true, especially when you run a 3-4. And how a 3-4 works is usually if you go into a nickel and dime package, the D tackle usually gets subbed out. And with Dante Poe obviously is a first-round pick. He's a very gifted athlete. He is. And they're talking about using him on the exterior and whatnot, and really going out there. He had some good job getting pressure on Aaron Rodgers, and that's what you're going to need to do with Rodgers out there. And I think that when you look at that, I definitely feel as if that when you have Poe out there, that just brings up good depth on the D-line. And to be honest, they already had a pretty good D-line. I mean, they had already Vic Beasley right there, but now you have Garrett, who I believe that was their first-round pick. I want to say that's a first-round pick. And then you have Dante Poe. Pretty good, solid group right there. And not only that, Desmond Trufant looked great out there. I think he did. He really won the battle between the receivers and whatnot. And the Packer receiving core, I'm not a big fan of. But however, I thought the Falcons defensive backs did well. It's probably the most underrated defensive backs in the NFL. People don't talk about Desmond Trufant, Robert Alford, Keanu Neal as much as they talk about Talib, Harris, and Stewart out there in Denver. They just don't. Or they talk about, or Seattle with Sherman, Thomas, and Chancellor. Even though Sherman, Thomas, and Chancellor is better, I don't think the Falcons' secondary is terribly far away from that. I don't think they're that far away from that. I think you're looking at a really solid Falcons unit. And the reason why I really like this Falcons defense is because of their ability to change their identity and do it well. If you remember in the Super Bowl, this team was coming in here. A lot of people thought, well, the Patriots are going to easily win this team. This team it's a zone team that likes to blitz a lot. I mean, that's going to be pretty hard to deal with because the Patriots love eating up zone, and you can't blitz against the Patriots. So what they didn't blitz, and they played man coverage. And for 44 minutes, the Patriots never led in that game at all until the last second with the James White touchdown and whatnot. So if you look at that Falcons defense, that's a legit group because they completely changed their identity. I say that in the video down below. Click in the link in the description if you're interested. Obviously, I probably said that twice already, but guys, keep listening. And when it comes to this, this is why I'm a big fan of the Falcons defense. I think it's really progressing there. And it's not far-fetched, especially when Dan Quinn was one of the architects with the Legion of Boom. So that's why I'm a big guy on the Falcons defense and whatnot. Now, let's get to the Packers. Now, the Green Bay Packers, the positives were that they were able to rally a little bit at the end. I think that even though they probably shouldn't have been rally as much, they were able to rally just a little bit. And I think that at least kind of got their attention. And they actually create some frustration for the Atlanta Falcons. I thought Ty Montgomery does not look like a half-bad running back. I really don't take him very seriously. Number one, he wears the number 88. I know why he wears the number 8, but you have a wide receiver playing running back. I just look at that. I think that's almost laughable out there. I really, really do. But he does a good job. He's productive. He can catch the ball too. So he works, and it looks like Green Bay likes him, and you can't blame them for that. Now, another positive I like to say is Martellus Bennett. Now, Bennett's one of these players who I thought that they paid him a little bit too much. They gave him a little bit too long a deal, but he's looking pretty good out there. He's looking good after yards after catch. I think he really gets in Green Bay. He's been catching the ball and all that. So, for a guy that's like 30 years old at tight end, he's not looking terrible. And ideally, when you look at Martellus Bennett, I think the Green Bay Packers, they really need a stud receiver. I know, like, a lot of people say, well, they got Nelson, they got Cobb, they got Adams, and they got Bennett. They're like, well, how much talent do they need? Well, first things first, let's just look at it. Jordy Nelson's getting up there in age. He's struggling with a lot of injuries. Number 2, Randall Cobb's overrated. He's not a number 1 receiver. Yes, he's versatile, but he's not that prolific of a guy. He's not a guy you're going to really game plan for. He's more of a scrub killer guy, and I made an overrated video on him. Click in the link in the description if you're interested. But guys, as you know, you gotta keep watching these. And Davante Adams, I'm not a big Davante Adams guy because he doesn't know how to get separation. Yes, he can catch the ball, but he doesn't get any separation once as possible. And when you look at Martellus Bennett is a good tight end, but he's the tight end that they deserve, but not what the tight end they need. They need a Rob Gronkowski almost kind of tight end at one point. I think that's something you look at. They really need that. And when it comes to this, the Packers, I talk about how they need a star wide receiver. Well, the reason why I say that is because Brett Favre, the great Brett Favre, when he was in Green Bay, was upset with the fact that the Green Bay Packers didn't go after Randy Moss. They were in talks with him. If you probably heard the story that they were going to trade Aaron Rodgers for Randy Moss, and you're talking about Rodgers being an Oakland Raiders uniform. That would have been insane to kind of look back at it. And Randy Moss getting thrown to Brett Favre when Randy Moss could still play, yeah, that would have been very exciting to watch. But the reason why you bring that in is because in a West Coast offense that you run, you really go with route runners. You're very technical receivers, guys that know that they do all the mechanics right and whatnot. You really don't go for athletic freaks. Well, ideally, how Mike McCarthy does it, he doesn't do anything to help the receivers. I think one thing that Chris Collinsworth brings up that's a good point is you need to press the Green Bay wide receivers. You do. You need to press them. You can beat the crap out of them at that line because they really don't have that great of a release. And when you put in Randy Moss, I mean, good job trying to press a 6'5" guy that runs a 4.2. Like, forget about it. And he could do all the route running. That's why you need him. And that's why I'm thinking that maybe Dez Bryant might become a Packer one day or something, or maybe Josh Gordon. That's why he's been rumored at. So you really need to have that size there. And that's why the tight end position is so important, because they can actually just get someone that's athletically gifted, who's pretty well balanced. And those are a lot easier to find than guys that run 6'5" and run 4.3. I mean, look at Julio Jones. He might not be as good as a product as Randy Moss, but man, that's hard to find. There's not too many guys you can get out there and could produce to do all the technical stuff and whatnot. And so that's why I look at that. And Martellus Bennett, he's doing a good job over there, but he's not going to carry them to the Super Bowl. He's not going to help them. This is not the equivalent of Tom Brady getting Randy Moss. No, this is the equivalent of Peyton Manning throwing to Wes Welker. It's not going to be super prolific. And just something about Green Bay is I look at their defense and all of that. Clay Matthews, he showed a little bit something, but I'm not overly impressed what he did. And I'm going to start kind of going to the negatives because it was not a good night for Green Bay whatsoever. So Green Bay secondary, you still suck. It's pretty self-ended. Yes, your safety play isn't bad, but your cornerback play looks pretty darn terrible like it usually is. You got to make a play for a cornerback someday, people. I think that if you look at Charles Woodson, was a big reason why they won the Super Bowl in 2010, and obviously he could play safety, but he also could play corner too. So you're talking about a high-quality player, Woodson right there, and you're just going to need that talent. They really just don't go out there. In fact, I mean, this is why Green Bay is very passive in free agency. Number 2, Green Bay, a lot of people talk about how New Orleans is a great home, that they're just a home team but a terrible road team. Similar things to Green Bay. I think Green Bay is one of these teams that they thrive at Lambeau. However, when they're on the road, they're not the same. And sometimes, yes, I get it. They beat the Vikings on the road. They beat Detroit on the road. Yes, but those are dome teams. So Aaron Rodgers, it's literally just like, whoop, 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 boop, boop. He can literally just throw it like this. It goes like 80 freaking yards because there's no wind resistance, there's no weather that affects his play and whatnot. So I just see that, and they just seem that Lambeau Field is such an advantage of them that they don't know how to react on the road. They just don't. Also, their goal line offense for me is a big concern. Okay, Martellus Bennett, you can't rely on him as a great goal line target. You can't. He's a good one. He's not a great one. I guess Aaron Rodgers isn't gonna. He's very good on the goal line, but that's all you have. You don't have a big body out there that you can rely on, nor do you have a running back to pound it in. They don't. Ty Montgomery isn't your physically gifted or physically freakish running back. He ain't what Eddie Lacy was. Now, yes, I know Eddie Lacy hasn't produced for the Packers, but when I look at it, you need that big running back to beat them up in the middle. It's very, very important, and they don't really have that in the red zone. I mean, you can rely on the O-line. Yes, Aaron Rodgers can dance around back there forever and make a play, but eventually that's not going to work. He can't do it, but it's not going to work. This is why I'm getting sick of picking Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl for the NFC, because they always let me down. Last year, my pick was Packers-Patriots, and I was close, but in the NFC Conference game, it doesn't feel that close. So I just feel as if it's just the Aaron Rodgers show in Green Bay. It really is. And another note on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely freaking fantastic. I love how Rodgers plays. I love how he's accurate. I love how patient he is. However, when I look at his ability to audible and do all this stuff on the line, he's great at it, but I didn't see that last night. He just didn't look that good last night. When it comes to the audibling, when it comes to like reading defenses, he just screwed up. I don't think he had a great job of recognizing what the defense looked like. And even with the Aaron Rodgers things about his leadership and whatnot, because some people would say he's not a leader. I would say he is a leader. I do. I think he is. He might not be Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is absolutely, he's a step above all the other quarterbacks in the league when it comes to leadership. I think Aaron Rodgers does have some leadership to him, and he is clutch as hell. But I just feel as if that you just gotta play better. And when it comes to this team, it really feels as if that it's just all on Rodgers' shoulder to do well. It's all on him, because if he just doesn't do well, the Packers ain't winning the football game. It's pretty self-evident. And Rodgers, personality-wise, I've been a defender of him, but he is the kind of person who he doesn't want to be a try-hard, which I kind of understand if you want to be cool. However, you're just looking back at it, you kind of have to put your best foot forward all the freaking time. And I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers really do that. I'm not sure. I think his work ethic might be in question. I think he works at it, but he isn't like, he ain't Kobe Bryant. He ain't Kobe Bryant when it comes to his work ethic. I don't see that. I think Aaron Rodgers, if he really wants to be the Aaron Rodgers show, which is basically the Green Bay Packers, and not the Green Bay Packers, it's the Aaron Rodgers show. If you want to be that, he's going to have to step up. And I think Aaron Rodgers, I've been a huge defender of him. I defended him for being the second best quarterback in the league last year. I absolutely did. I put him up there, and I was really fighting hard for him. But you really got to be more consistent if you want to win when it's all on you, Rodgers. And that's just something that Rodgers needs to work on. And it's not all on Rodgers. It's not. But if it is going to be all on Rodgers, he's going to have to play he's going to have to play even better than he is. And that might seem absurd. I mean, how much better can he be? But it's a bunch of little things that he might need to work. Maybe it's personnel, maybe it's leadership. Who knows? I love Rodgers. However, he just needs to take it he might just have to take it up to another level. And that might be hard to do. But I think it is possible. And another note is when it comes to the Packers, I didn't really expect them to win. No, I didn't. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It wasn't like they were upsetted by the Falcons. But if you're gonna be serious about winning Super Bowls, they gotta be. Because if I was a Green Bay Packers fan, I would not be happy with these 10-6 records. How about you go 12-4 and maybe have home field advantage with Lambeau? When's the last time Lambeau Field hosted an NFC conference game? I think it's been since 2007. You've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. It's been since 2007. And something about them being an ego, maybe Aaron Rodgers' ego that he could just win on the road and he could do just fine. But hey, make it easy for yourselves later on. Work hard in the regular season and do that. Stop with all this procrastination that I feel like Aaron Rodgers does. Phenomenal talent. He just needs to really get his act together. And guys, share your comments down below. What did you think of this game? Was there anything I missed that you guys wanted me to talk about? If you have any thoughts, share your thoughts down below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.